gain a lot by working so hard to find resolutions and not give up, and too easily say, we will veto, or even, not only veto, but also the threat of the veto, which is there. The threat of the veto is like a wet blanket sometimes on the discussions. I know that. I'm in the council every month, every couple of months. And you feel that now you're on the threshold of the threat of the veto. And that sort of stops the discussion. Jokingly. It's not serious, but I mean something of this. The Security Council should work like the Catholic Church when they select popes. I don't say they should be locked up in the Sistine Chapel.
Maybe they should, yes.
Romark, you said it, I didn't, I heard you. But they should be knowing that, yes, you have a negotiation board. Come out with a resolution, which is good enough, but which is not a binding commitment to everybody. The difference between resolutions in the General Assembly and the Security Council is that all the recommendations, as you know, is just the recommendations in the Assembly. Except admitting you as a member, of course. I remember, I gathered that, thank you. But it is Security Council, they are binding resolutions. By the way, today we should remind ourselves there is a binding resolution on Syria on the 18th of December last year. Go back to that text and tell them that is binding. So I think a reduction of the use of the veto. The French and the British evidently are ready to not veto anything that is in the direction of mass atrocities. I think the United States has not taken that step. Russia and China have been reluctant also. But I think to discuss limitations of the use of veto is a very good way forward. And then I commend the group that is now over 110 members in New York, what's they called, ACT, with Liechtenstein, Ambassador Liechtenstein, Switzerland, and 5 or 6 leading countries are working on different reforms of the Security Council, which are very meaningful. And which can be done without changing the charter. But I still think that we need to think about how to reflect the world. You know, I have a line that I use with my colleagues all the time when we get a bit depressed. I say to my colleagues, you've heard it so many times now, David and Rebecca, my special assistant behind me here. The United Nations is a mirror, a reflection of the world as it is, whether you like it or not. When you analyze the situation around on the ground, don't put on any rosy glasses and romanticize it. Give it to me as it is. I want the most sober, hard-hitting analysis that you could ever think. I want to know all the facts. Yes, that's the world as it is. That's the UN, world as it is. But then don't you ever forget that the world, the UN is also a reflection, a mirror of the world as it should be. We must not forget what the world should be. And our job in the UN, and in the world generally, I hope also you share that, our world is simply to diminish the gap between the world as it is and it should be. But starting point must always be a sober, strong analysis of the facts on the ground, with no romanticism. And knowing those facts and having the best minds working on that, then you go back to what is it should be. I don't say we should close the gap. That would be completely unrealistic. But I say let's at least try to diminish a millimeter, a centimeter, an inch, something. So, Bahamas, thank you very much. I'm glad you saw the solidarity in the region context. Thank you so much. And on Norway, was that on about Norway? Did I forget that? UN relevance, yeah, UN relevance. I think the relevance for UN, and that relates partly also to Sweden, Sweden's question. I think the relevance will be to what degree we are good at prevention and really are serious about prevention, because we're almost losing control. I think we definitely have to make sure that we have an effective preventive program, not only in peace and security, but as I said, also on human rights, but also on development. I know when there is a drought, a big flood, the food prices will rise maybe twice, 100, 200%. And if you live on $1.50 a day, it's hunger, it's starvation, it's food riots, it's horrible problem. Why don't we always think one step ahead? So I think if UN can really be do the clarion calls, be credible on prevention, then that would be great. If the Security Council would accept Article 1 and Article 33 and 34. And the second one is UN as one. Not UN as if one, I heard someone say. UN as one. And there I think we will be forced, quotation mark, in a positive way by the SDGs and by the sustaining peace resolutions. And also by enlightened self-interest, because that's the strongest agencies, I speak to UNHCR now, the strongest agencies are those who realize that they work across others. You are good at that, because you work with UN Women, you work with UNDP, you work with others. I know, Michelle, I think the strongest will be those who work horizontally, not those who go down vertically and dig themselves deeper into the ground. And the third one is our possibility to project ourselves to a wider audience in the world. And that's why I'm so fascinated by reaching out to young people. Everything we can do to reach young people and reach other groups, because the power centers in the world will not only be governments. Let us recall that. There is so much coming from other levels. When I talked to Senator Ed Markey 2 days ago, one of the driving climate change senators in the US Congress, a friend of mine since I was ambassador in Washington, he said to me, well, he also was worried about the direction of statements on climate change from the incoming administration, but he also said 30 of the members of the states in America have legislation, which is binding legislation for the states. Hundreds of cities have progressive rules and regulations. Portland, Oregon, he mentioned. And then he said the private sector have about 300,000 people working on renewable energy. He thought it was about 60, 70,000 coal workers, but 300,000 in renewable energy. So let us remember that there are so many other centers of excellence, centers of action in the private sector, in the civil society, in the academic and scientific work. Look what science can do on the SDGs, on health, and on climate. Scientific community. 28th to 29th of November, I will be speaking at New York Academy of Science, who are gathering some of the best minds in science in America, who ask themselves, how can we help achieve the SDGs? So let's always get some hope, find the niche where we can produce results. And if UN can be the catalyst for this, I think UN can be doing it. Because to just look at UN and say, UN, please save our problems. No, UN, we should mobilize and we should be catalytic for action from others in the spirit of standing up for these values. And that is crucial now, because the other school of thought is so strong. By that, I think I did, in fact, answer most questions, because the question from my dear friend Montenegro was the same on Security Council reform, wasn't it? It wasn't a question about negotiations generally, because that could be another lecture. Thank you very much. Thank you.